Hello, chess fans. Welcome to another edition of Chess Chat, a program brought to you live from the Workers Credit Union studios at Fitchburg Access Television. I am your host, George Merijanian, Program Director of the Wachusett Chess Club at Fitchburg State University. This club meets every Wednesday evening from 6:30 to 10:30 at the McKay Complex at the university. And with me once again for this episode of Chess Chat is our award-winning director, Darren Dame of Fitchburg. He's assisted in the control room and also on camera by Brian Bigelow, a longtime Wachusett Chess Club member. And sitting across from me is my associate, longtime friend, chess photographer, chess author, assistant club webmaster, my co-host, Dave Kuchar of Westminster. Hello, Dave.
Hello, George.
Dave, it's always a pleasure seeing you.
And you?
And especially today, because for this episode of Chess Chat, we are going to pay tribute to a chess legend, a living chess legend, a player who has had the biggest impact in my chess career, in the chess careers of many chess players in New England, and that's John Curdo, John Anthony Curdo. Now, John Curdo, actually, I first met in 1963 when he came and played in Fitchburg in the third Central New England Open. It was a tournament, very popular tournament that started in 1961, and it was held at the Unitarian Church, the First Parish Church, Unitarian Church at the Upper Common in Fitchburg. But John Curdo played in those Central New England Open tournaments in the 1960s through the 1970s when we shifted it to the Holiday Inn in Leominster, and then it came back to Fitchburg, the Central New England Open, because we played it at the AmVets on John Fitch Highway. We played it at the Knights of Columbus on Electric Ave in Fitchburg. So it stopped around the mid-'80s, but John Curdo was there. I mean, he loved that tournament. And he played and won a total of 18 of them in the time that we held the Central New England Open in Fitchburg. But John Curdo is a World Chess Federation master. We know him more as FIDE, which is the acronym for the World Chess Federation. Right. He's a FIDE master. But he is actually stronger than his title hold, because actually he holds several records. Two of the records he holds, he has won more Massachusetts state championships than any player in Massachusetts. He's won it actually 18 times, according to his count, and according to this magazine, Chess Horizons, which was actually the official publication of the Massachusetts Chess Association. They have actually a complete list of his tournament history, and they published actually in 1986. In the 100th issue of their magazine, his tournament record. Now, we have some photos. Darren has some nice photos of John Curdo. This was taken sometime in the either late 70s or early 80s, and that's John Curdo at a tournament. Let's see another photo of John during the same period. Here he is. I don't know where this was. This might have been played actually at the Boylston Chess Club on Boylston Street in Boston when this was played. But this is actually John, again, let's see, this is late 70s, so he's got to be like at his, maybe, how old would he be? He was born November 14, 1931. The reason we're paying tribute to him, among other things, is he has a birthday coming up. He's going to be celebrating his 90th birthday less than a week from now. On November 14, 2021, he'll turn 90, and he stopped playing chess at the Greater Worcester Chess Club because of the pandemic, which struck that club and all clubs in the country in February of 2020. But that was his last tournament. He actually, the U.S. Chess Federation, which keeps records of everybody's tournaments, but only for the past 30 years. They don't go back to the 1950s and decades after that. But John won the Massachusetts State Championship, the Massachusetts Open, at the age of 16 in 1948. That was his first state championship title
Yeah.
in 48. So between 1948 and I believe 1985, he's won it 18 times, according to John's own account.
Yep.
He's also won the New England Open Championship at least 6 times in the 80s. But he dominated. Here's another good photo of John. He's probably playing a simultaneous. Yeah, in fact, he is playing a simultaneous exhibition. I don't know where this was held, but again, he played numerous simultaneous exhibitions, which we know as simuls.
Yep.
But he was also, besides being a very strong player and probably one of those active chess players, he was also a teacher. He had many students in his long chess career. In fact, including some of our Wachusett Chess Club members, including Gail Linger, a former co-host of Chess Chat. So now here's a photo that was taken. This is actually Robert Byrne. Now the reason we're showing it on the left, his name is in Cyrillic. Now if you were to pronounce it in Cyrillic, his name would be Byrne, but it's Robert Byrne. Now Robert Byrne, who's a photo on the left, is playing on the right Boris Spassky. Boris Spassky was the world champion who beat Tigran Petrosyan in 1969 and lost it to Bobby Fischer in 1972.
Right.
Well, Robert Byrne eventually ended up playing Boris Spassky in what we call a candidates tournament to see who would qualify, who would be the challenger to Bobby Fischer in 1975. This tournament that they were playing in, Robert Byrne on the left, Boris Spassky, was not from the candidates tournament, but was from a tournament in Russia. I believe it's Leningrad, Russia. But in 1974, they did play a match in San Juan, Puerto Rico, that Spassky defeated Byrne on the left. Now the question is, why are we bringing up Robert Byrne?
Right.
What is the Byrne connection? Well, here's another nice photo of Robert Byrne. Robert Byrne, who was 3 years older than John Curdo, was born in 1928. Curdo was born in 1931. Robert Byrne became the chess columnist for the New York Times in 1972. The year that Fischer won the World Championship, Byrne became the chess columnist for the Times. And you know how long he wrote the chess column in the New York Times?
No.
34 years. Wow. His last column in the Times was November 12th, 2006. 2006, yeah.
Right.
And he died actually in January of 2000, I believe, 16. Yeah.
Right. But we still have the question of why we're talking about
why
Robert
are we talking about Robert Byrne? How did Robert Byrne get into this act? Okay. Because the game we're going to present a game that John Curdo played against Grandmaster and former U.S. champion Robert Byrne from the U.S. Open in 1994. Yep. But before we get to that, let's show some more photos. We don't have to rush it. Now this is a nice portrait. This is actually a painting done by a Catherine McGrail, and it's actually on the cover. This is from a cover. Maybe I'll show this. Okay, I have a copy of that issue in front of me, but this was taken in Vermont. Here's the magazine with that portrait. It was done in 1982. John Curdo went to Vermont and performed a simultaneous exhibition in Vermont, and the artist painted that simul, and it was on the cover of the 100th issue of Chess Horizons in 1986. And Chess Horizons was the official magazine of the Massachusetts Chess Association, but it met its demise in early 2020, pre-pandemic, actually before the pandemic. Okay, do we have any more photos? We might have other photos of John Curdo. Now here is a book that it's an autobiography. What's the title? What do you see there? 40 years at the top. Right. It's his chess career, John Curdo's chess career, and this was published in 1988, and it contains a great selection of games, games in his career, up until the mid 80s, I believe, or a little later. And we have that copy. That copy is here somewhere. Yes, I have a copy.
Right here.
Oh, you have it.
Right here.
All right. Now, he also, after that book came out in 1988, John, with the help of Frank Nero, who became the executive director of the U.S. Chess Federation years later, came out with Caviar. This is actually the second publication that John did, more Chess Caviar. His first publication was Chess Caviar. His second one, which this came out in 1992, I believe, was called More Chess Caviar. And they came out with a third one called Still More Chess Caviar.
Right.
Yeah, so he produced 3 books on miniatures,
games. Right.
Now, these are games like 25 moves or less.
Right.
But there were 100 games in each.
Right.
Okay, so very, very instructive games. Very good. Now, here's actually a good photo of John, profile photo of John Curdo. Again, he's going to be turning 90 years old. This is a photo of John Curdo on the right, talking or discussing with Harold Dondas with the hat. Harold Dondas was a longtime chess columnist for the Boston Globe, and they were best of friends.
Yep.
Yeah, because John Curdo used to annotate games for Harold Dondas' chess column.
Yep.
Yeah, so they had a very good relationship. They were the best of friends. Now, this is the last photo we're going to show of John Curdo. On the left, this was taken just a couple of months ago, about the first week in August. He is standing with a Wachusett Chess Club member, Mike Bergeron. Mike Bergeron comes every week to the club with his son Matt, and this is the most recent photo of John Curdo. This photo we got courtesy of Matt Pyers, who's a former chess club member, and he provided us with this photo that was taken by John Curdo's wife, Carol. Okay, so are we in a position, close to a position to present the game that John Curdo played? But before we do that, do you have time to read? Do we have time to read from his book?
Do. Sure.
From 40 years at a time. How did John Curdo start his chess career? How did this all come about? Can you read from his book?
Yes. John Curdo's chess career began with a seed catalog and a yen for a hunting knife. At the close of World War II, the 14-year-old went door to door selling seeds for premiums. But John's goal conjured up parental fears of severed fingers and other gruesome accidents, and his mother said no to the hunting knife. "Why don't you get that nice little chess set instead?" she asked. The prize brochure showed a little pegboard set, and John agreed to his second choice on one condition. His 3 brothers had to learn the game too, so he would have people to play with. So all the Curdo boys learned, and soon John was insisting on playing out every game to checkmate, even when he was 2 rooks ahead. In time, the board became one big square with 64 holes. Thousands of games wore the colors away.
Okay, so it all started with John getting a chess set, a chess board, peg style. His mother did not want him to get a hunting knife from this catalog.
Yep.
And we have to credit his mother for really starting his chess career by insisting that, John, don't get that knife. It's too dangerous. And he got the chess set, and that started him when he got that chess set. Now, the game, as I said, we're going to present is a game that John Curdo played against Grandmaster Robert Byrne. This was played at the U.S. Open in 1994. They always refer to this as the Chicago U.S. Open. It was actually held in Rosemont, Illinois, which is actually very close, a suburb of the Chicago, the greater Chicago area. But John Curdo beat other grandmasters. Pal Benko and Arthur Biscar. So he was capable of beating very strong players. He beat a number of international masters and a slew of other masters.
But he said this was his favorite game.
Yes, right. He did say of all the games he's played, this is definitely the best game that he likes. So,
all right, so we should jump into it.
So let's go into the game. And John Curdo had white in the game. So how did he open his game against Grandmaster Byrne?
E4.
Okay. And as far as I know, John Curdo, other than one other move he used to play, F4, never was stuck with E4. He was an E4 player. Let's put it this way. Now, Grandmaster Byrne, in response to E4, played the pawn on C7 as C5. So he's playing this. Oh, we have played this so many times.
Right.
What is this called? What is this?
I don't think we even have to tell our viewers.
Now, our viewers have been watching this now for the past 15 years, would know that this is the Sicilian defense.
Yep.
One of the most popular replies to the E4.
Right.
Okay. So now, how did John continue on his second move?
He played the most common response, knight to F3.
Okay, and it is the most common second move.
Preparing to push D4 typically.
Right. Okay. So Byrne in response to knight f3, plays his pawn to d6, okay? Which actually Bobby Fischer would play this move when he played the Sicilian defense.
Yeah.
He liked d6 as a second move. Okay, now, before we present John Curdo's third move, what is actually the usual, what's the most popular
Well, usually,
response?
like I said, he was preparing to play d4.
Yes.
But that's not what he plays.
He didn't play that.
Right.
Okay. By the way, is there anything else possible here? If you're not going to play d4, before we actually play John's third move, what else is possible here?
I suppose possible would be knight to c3.
Yes, knight c3, there's nothing wrong with that.
You could even play bishop out to c4.
Yeah. But play what John played on his third
So he
move.
plays bishop to b5, check.
Aha. Okay. Now, this is something, I don't think we've ever played this
Probably
on
not.
Chess Chat.
It's fairly rare.
It's really rare. Now, does it have a name? You know, in chess we
I think
have
it has lots of names.
lots
right?
of names. You
the
told me that this.
Canal attack and the Moscow
Yes.
variation, I think.
Yeah, I knew it playing chess years ago as the Moscow variation, because this was actually very popular in the 1930s in the Soviet Union. But you mentioned the Canal variation. There was a Peruvian grandmaster, Esteban Canal, who actually adopted this move. So his name is also attached to it. But whatever you call it, it's something that John Curdo was part of his repertoire.
Yep.
So now with this check on the king, there's only 3 ways to block this check. We can play the bishop to d7. That's a block.
Yep.
Or we can play the knight to c6. That's a block.
Yep.
What Robert Byrne played was knight d7. That's how he responded to Curdo's check with the bishop.
Yep.
All right, so now it's John Curdo's fourth move.
So
what did he play?
Now he plays d4.
Okay, now he plays d4. Now Byrne, in response to d4, could take that pawn with the c pawn, but instead he decides to play the knight on g8 to f6. Knight f6 with an immediate attack, does he not? On the pawn on e4.
Yeah.
Okay. Or I hope I have this right here.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, I have it. Okay. So now what comes? What happens next?
So Curdo plays a fairly aggressive move. He could have just defended by bringing the knight out to c3.
Yeah.
But instead he pushes the pawn, attacking both the pawn and the knight.
So he's attacking the knight. Okay. So with that pawn on e5 attacking the knight, Robert Byrne decides to come with the queen to a5 check.
Right.
It attacks the king, but it's also attacking the undefended bishop.
Right.
Although his knight on f6 is also
under attack. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on here. We have pieces being attacked. So how did Curdo respond to this check?
So Curdo responds by blocking with knight to c3, and it also protects the bishop on b5.
All right. So Byrne now, in response to knight c3, with his knight attacked on f6, now plays his knight to e4, and now has a double attack on the knight. Now, what is the threat? What is Black's threat by doing this? The threat is actually to eliminate this knight, which was protecting this bishop, which would be leave this undefended.
Right.
So what does John do in response to knight e4?
So bishop to d2, putting a second defender on the knight and breaking the pin.
Okay. Now, I'd like to point out that this game is actually printed in John's book, Still More Chess Caviar. And he points out that actually this move that he played in 1994 at the U.S. Open was played in the same year against Grandmaster Alexander Ivanov, also a multi-time Masters State champion. What he played was actually, he actually as white, Curdo as white, hold it, whose move is it? No, Curdo played against Byrne, bishop d2, but when Curdo played Alexander Ivanov in the same year, he castled.
Okay.
So that was the difference.
Yep.
So now we have bishop d2 played by John. So now what Byrne does, he plays knight takes c3. He eliminates the knight on c3, which leaves this now undefended.
Right.
So this is going to force White's next move. What is White's fourth next move?
He plays bishop takes d7 check.
Yes, and that was force. In response to that, Byrne now recaptures. He only has one move. Bishop takes d7.
Right.
So that is captured. And now what does John Curdo do?
Now John captures back on c3.
Right. Bishop's C3.
Attacking the queen.
Okay, attacks the queen. All right. So the queen has to move. It's under attack.
Right, yeah.
So where does Byrne go? He's not going to go back where he came from.
Right.
But he goes queen A6. Now, why does he go to queen A6? What does this stop?
So this stops him from castling, because you can't castle over an attack square. So.
Right. So with queen A6, he stops white from castling. All right, so the queen is on A6. So now what does John do? His move is,
So now
it's 10th move coming up.
Yeah, he plays D5.
Okay. All right, so D5. All right, so in response to this, Byrne now plays his pawn on E7 to E6. He'd like actually to break up these pawns here by playing E6. But of course, this actually, there were better moves according to the Encyclopedia Chess Openings. But this is a playable move, but there were certainly better moves. But what did John do in response to E6?
So there's a lot of choices here, right? There's pawns that can be taken.
Yes, could be exchanged, right?
But instead he plays, again, a fairly aggressive move, knight to G5.
Which puts more pressure on this pawn on E6.
Yep.
It's now attacked twice,
Right.
but it's defended twice.
Right.
With the pawn F7 and the bishop on D7.
But it also opens up this diagonal
Yes,
for the queen.
It does. It allows the queen now to come into play here. So after knight G5, Byrne realizes we got to eliminate this pawn traffic here, and he actually takes the pawn. How does he take it? The D pawn captures the E pawn. I'm sorry. The D pawn, this D pawn captures the pawn on E5. D takes E5 is his move. All right. So what is John's next move?
So his next move, he's going to play queen to F3, but I think you said in his notes, he points out that, that queen to H5 is actually the better move.
Threatening mate?
Threatening mate.
Right.
Well, not quite mate.
Well,
it's check and the king.
Oh, that's true. That's true. But that would be very devastating.
But the point is, it would force this pawn to move up, and then he could come back to F3, and there's this giant hole here.
That's even better. So
but instead he played queen to F3 immediately.
Okay, but queen H5 was stronger.
Was much stronger,
creating this weakness of the pawn being pushed to G6. So with the queen on F3, we have this threat of taking down here with the queen with check. So what Byrne does, he advances the pawn to F6. So now the pawn F6 is attacking the knight. Okay, he stopped the major threat of the queen taking the pawn on F7.
Right.
All right, so now it's John Curdo's move.
13th move, D takes E6.
That was his 13th move. His bishop now was under attack, and he can't. But he could take back. Could he? No. He decides he wants to do this. He could, but he thinks by playing the bishop to C6, he has an immediate attack on the queen.
Sure.
All right. Okay. So the queen now is under attack. So what's the queen going to do?
Moves to F5. Again, this is pretty aggressive placement.
Okay. All right. So now we have now there's a threat. I see a threat here. There's a threat actually, possibly taking here with the knight. Knight takes this pawn here, which leave this undefended with a check possible. So this is very dangerous with the queen at F5. So what Robert Byrne does, he plays the bishop to E7, does he not? Yeah. Okay, so he's going there. So now what does John Curdo do on his next move?
So he castles long, castles on the queen side.
But what is the computer assessment of this move? Looks like a good move.
It looks like,
It really stops black from castling queenside.
Sure.
All right. But was there something better?
The computer.
What is the computer like?
Really liked.
Sinking here.
Knight F7, attacking the rook.
Attacking the rook and force the rook
Force the rook to move away.
And when the rook moves, then this possibly could
queen
drop.
Could snap that pawn up.
Yeah. So, but John instead played. He castled queen side.
Castles queen side.
All right. Now Byrne, after John castled queen side, attacks the queen with G6. Okay, G6 is the move. Now what? The queen has to move. Right. It's under attack.
So the queen's attacked. His knight's attacked. Plays queen to H3.
All right. So now Byrne says, "Wait a minute. You're leaving. I'm gonna take that knight."
Sure. Yeah.
And he accepts the sacrifice. John has just sacrificed the knight.
Yeah.
F takes the pawn on g5. F takes g5. Okay, so how does Curdo continue here? He just lost. He just gave up a knight.
He gave up a knight, but he takes the pawn on e5.
Okay.
He's attacking the rook
Okay.
on h8.
All right. And in response to this, what Byrne did is castle.
Yeah.
Can't castle queenside, but he certainly castle kingside. Is that dangerous? Isn't that dangerous?
It looks dangerous.
A little dangerous. Okay, so how did Curdo respond to the black side castling?
Queen to h6. He's now threatening mate in one move.
Right. And he can't. How does he defend? How does he defend this? He needs to defend this square. What he does is he blocks.
Yep.
And he could have blocked with the bishop f6, but he chose to block with the rook f6.
Yep.
He blocks here because we're going to see his follow-up, why he played the rook instead of the bishop.
Right.
Yep. But there's no problems yet.
No problems yet for black.
Remember, he's a piece ahead.
He's a piece ahead.
Piece ahead right now. All right, so what did Curdo do?
And we have to point out, this is getting pretty complicated. We can't, talk about all the variations.
Right. Exactly.
But he plays a very aggressive move, h4.
Okay. And now the response, Byrne, is to play bishop f8, attack the queen.
And we can point out that this is the losing move, basically.
This move loses the game?
This is the losing move. He only had one move to save the position.
And the only move to save the position
was to push this pawn to keep the h-file closed.
He missed that. Byrne missed that. Instead, he thought by attacking the queen,
It certainly looks reasonable.
It looks reasonable. However, he overlooked one thing that Curdo had.
He overlooked one thing, and now again we can say there's only one move for Curdo that would win the game.
Right, only one move.
I don't know that most people would find it, but he does. He sacrifices the queen. Queen takes h7 check.
And black is forced to take.
Forced to take, yeah.
So king takes the queen on h7. Okay, so how does
but now here's the key. H takes g5.
Check.
Check on
Discover
the h-file.
check.
Discover check on the
Discover
h-file.
check.
Yep.
King has to move.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to go here because he'll be checked again.
Right.
So he decides he'll go to king g8. Okay. Yep. Now how does John continue now? Does he take something here?
He does. So he plays g takes f6.
Okay. And now what's his threat?
Now the threat is checkmate in one move.
Right. So how does he stop that? So
to stop it is.
So he can't stop it, can he?
He could temporarily, right?
But he resigned.
But he resigned.
He resigned because he's going to be mated. Whether he comes back with the bishop to stop the event, he's going to be mated actually with the rook on h8.
Within a few moves, yeah.
Right. So 22 moves, the game is over. John Curdo beating Grandmaster Robert Byrne.
Former U.S. champion.
Former U.S. champion. He won the U.S. championship in 1972, the year that Fischer won the world championship.
Yeah.
So we thought we would present this game that John Curdo loves this game. This is his favorite.
You can see why. Yeah.
And we're going to wish him a happy 90th birthday. It's coming up in less than a week. It's going to be this coming Sunday. And again, he has won 947 tournaments, more than anybody else in the world. He holds that record. And again, we wish him well on his 90th birthday coming up. And we wish you to return to us for the next episode of Chess Chat, because we're going to provide you another interesting game for your education and entertainment. So we'll see you then for the next edition of Chess Chat.